Welcome, Prime community. It's a big pleasure for me to welcome for this PGS Talks number 5, the student push, driving curriculum change towards sustainability. For those who were in the open plenary a few minutes ago, you listened to the head of Prime, Matt Morsing, talking about curriculum change. And let's listen now from Maxime Lakat, who drove an gigantic movement of changing curriculum in McGill when he was a student at McGill University in Canada. And from that movement, he found and now is the executive director of Regeneration, formerly known as the Canadian Business Youth Council for Sustainable Development. Regeneration is Canada's largest organization dedicated to advancing sustainable business by amplifying youth perspective and providing youth with skills building and career resource. Maxime has been helping us to develop Prime Global students since the very beginning, and I'm very grateful for you, my friend. So please, thanks for sharing your time with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Paolo. And great to see, as I said, some familiar names and faces in the participants list right now. I did a few talks in the past for Prime at their global forums. Sometimes it was like hundreds of people in the audience. This time is a much smaller group, but I feel that this is going to make it even more relaxed and a bit more intimate. So I'm really looking forward to sharing some of these insights I have prepared for you. So I'm just going to share my screen. If Paolo, you just can confirm that everybody is seeing this before I start, that'd be great. Paolo, can you just, can someone tell me that they're seeing this? Perfect, amazing, thank you. I got the heads up, great. So we are the Regeneration. That's the name of our organization. The reason for it is that we want to play both on the idea that the future of sustainable development and sustainability is a regenerative economy. So we really want to push the conversation further towards that. And at the same time, we are a generation, a new generation, who's going to really help rethink society. So that's who we are. As Paolo said in my introduction, we're Canada's largest youth-run organization dedicated to advancing sustainable business practices by amplifying youth perspectives and providing youth with skills building and career resources. Our 3 missions are to reimagine schools, so business schools and economics programs entirely, just because it wouldn't be realistic to try to change all faculty. So we did focus on business schools and economics program. Repurpose careers of young people anywhere between 18 and 30 years old, regardless of their bachelor, regardless of their background. Any young person in Canada, we want to help them try to find a way to get more meaning in their careers and contribute positively to tackling social and environmental issues. And then finally, our 3rd mission is to remodel companies, mostly basically through policy advocacy. So we do engage with policymakers and other ways to basically make sure that the private sector has the regulations and the financial incentives in place to ensure that they're actually transition. So, but before that, all this is a culmination and the result of many, many years of work. So I thought I would make a short history and proofs of students' impact to inspire, hopefully, some of the people in the waiting room to take action themselves or take new actions. And as well, if there are some professors or faculty leadership or business school stakeholders in the room to get even more convinced of how much impact students can have. So I guess this short history starts about 4 years ago when I became the co-president of the Digital Sustainability Network, which is basically the student organization dedicated to sustainable business within the business faculty at McGill University here in Montreal in Canada. I became the president of that student organization and actually led this student organization for 3 consecutive years. And we, worked on events, like our largest event, you're seeing a picture right here, which was the Montreal Youth Summit on Sustainable Business. It was actually the largest youth summit ever held in Canada on sustainable business. It was 500 participants over 2 days, 45 speakers. It was really a very, very large event. And it was 3 different student organizations, including ours, hosting it. And we also worked at the curriculum level to get some change within the culture of our business faculty. So what happened is that after, like a year or two of me being a student president of that student organization at McGill, I realized that there was no communication between the different student organizations similar to mine across universities across the country of Canada. And so I was like, okay, there's a unique opportunity here to learn from each other and share best practices and also advocate together. So that's where we created the Canadian Business Youth Council for Sustainable Development. This is the previous name to Regeneration. This name is completely impossible to remember. So we thought, you know what, why don't we change names? And so that's why we changed to something much simpler, like Regeneration. But so this was our previous name. And so that led us to, different initiatives. Other proofs of the impact of students is the amount of impact that students and student organizations can have on the culture and how the culture of a faculty can actually lead to very tangible changes. So what I mean with culture is, for example, like how business students will perceive sustainability. Will they perceive it as, oh, just this other thing on the side that they don't really care about? Do they see it as this thing they really worry about but cannot do much about it? Or do they see it as a learning opportunity and something really exciting? And so, for example, in that case, what we would try to do is make sure through events, through that student organization in McGill, that we really made sustainability relevant to everyone. And so that's why, for example, we hosted different events like the Sustainable Finance Summit. It was a very, very large success. I think there was like 200 participants. And we did that annually. Every year we would organize the Sustainable Finance Summit until we were able to come to the faculty and show to the faculty and professors that there's a clear, big interest from students in sustainable finance, which led to the creation of the first sustainable finance course that has been now taught for almost 3 years, for 3 consecutive years at McGill University. So some very tangible change that actually initially came from students who actually pushed for a cultural change and then asked the faculty, okay, now we want to see a course being created, and we helped the creation of it. And then, we tried to, have that energy kind of spread around. And so we hosted some roundtables in the province of Quebec to ensure that more universities are actually sharing with each other best practices in teaching sustainable finance. So, and all this initially came from a student organization. The milestone and the biggest proof, I think, of how much students can have in terms of impact was our Manifesto Campaign. So this is the Regeneration's Our Future, Our Business Manifesto Campaign that happened actually right after the pandemic. The pandemic was actually a really good time to reflect on where society is going and where young people would like, the future of business to go. It was co-created with 65 youth organizations and got the support and recognition to push business education to change by 100 civil society organizations, 130 high-level executives, leaders, so mostly CEOs and vice presidents of companies, and also close to 1,500 students and alumni. So clearly this manifesto campaign, which is basically a manifesto of 20 statements on the future of sustainability within business, was a very large campaign and a very strong signal to schools that change needs to happen within business schools. And all this was entirely volunteer-led, all this was entirely student-led. And so this, manifesto campaign led to different resources, including our recommendations report. I won't go through our recommendations today. You can access them at our website, www.regeneration.ca, our manifesto. And you can, in the page, you will be able to find the access to the recommendations report, where we detail all the barriers that we identified to change through a literature review of like what are some of the common barriers to change in business schools to integrate more sustainability, and what are some recommendations to overcome these barriers. So now, you know, another proof, but now not focusing just on my organization and what we've done here in Canada, but at the international level, two organizations that I know actually are in the audience right now, but a big shout out to them because they've been really a key source of inspiration, and we wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't from learning from them and really seeing how they've been innovating for the past few years before us. And really making sure that we're not, you know, trying to reinvent the wheel and actually are learning from the best. So two movements, one based out of France called Pour un réveil écologique. In English, it's For an Ecological Awakening. And then Oikos International, that are basically across all of Europe and not just one country. And they both had amazing initiatives. Pour un réveil écologique also had led a manifesto before ours. It got 30,000 student signatures, and they've been able to really get some tangible change going on in France, in the post-secondary education system on sustainability in general. And then Oikos International has been empowering student leaders across Europe to drive change within economics and management programs for, I think, about 3 decades now. So two international movements to follow if you want to be convinced that students can have a lot of impact. Now back to us. So as I said, we have our 3 missions here. The first mission is to reimagine schools. And what we mean was that, and the way we go about it is the following. We go both in a bottom up and a top-down way to change curriculum in business schools and economics program. In terms of the bottom up, we basically empower local students with action toolkits for student leaders to push for curriculum change and start their own student organization. The reality is that in Canada right now, we have about 80 business schools, but the large majority of business schools do not have a student organization entirely dedicated to sustainability within the school and dedicated to organizing events. There are Enactus chapters. Enactus is basically a social incubator of social entrepreneurs to create like social projects. The problem is that they're doing amazing work, but they're not focused on like changing like the curriculum and organizing events mostly. So that's why most business schools today don't necessarily have a student organization dedicated to sustainability. So we want to make sure we identify students to actually drive that change and empower them with the right tools, raising our youth voices as well through newspaper articles, student governance bodies, and international collaborations. And then from a top-down way, we meet with key stakeholders in the business education field, including policymakers. We help schools with alumni re-engagement and leveraging industry demand, so they make sure that they understand like what are all these senior leaders in sustainability believing that the future of business education and economics programs should lead to. We also conduct research to reveal the state of sustainability integration in business schools and the economics program. We have 3 tools that are all available on our website, regeneration.ca. To start or grow a student organization, advocate for curriculum change, or leverage resources to help professors integrate sustainability. So I really invite all of you to go to our website and visit those different resources. In terms of our second mission, we have developed lots of part-year development tools. I know we're kind of tight on time, so I'll go over them very, very quickly, but basically we have developed everything to accompany a young person, regardless of where they are, whether they're like at the very beginning of asking themselves the right questions to really finding a job. And so we build all that. Everything is on our website, as I just said. And the idea here behind the career development tools is really to ensure that young people are not only passionate about climate change and social issues, they actually see how they can dedicate their lives and integrate these issues and their values into actions, into their day-to-day career. And so now a quick youth outlook, and I'll wrap up after that, a quick youth outlook on the state and potential future of business education. There has been a lot of positive progress over the past few years. More and more business professors have been challenging profit and shareholder primacy. University rankings are also looking at more and more sustainability. There's been more and more research on this topic within business schools, and accreditation bodies, standards and expectations have also been evolving to integrate more sustainability. So there has been definitely a lot of positive progress in business education in the world and in Canada. However, there are limitations to that progress. The first is that oftentimes the discussions and concepts of sustainability are often siloed in a very few dedicated courses, and only a few minority of students are actually going through those, rather than being mainstreamed, across all courses and being referenced to in more traditional courses. And then, my amazing yet too unique experience at McGill University. What I mean was that I'm not trying to just sell out McGill University. I had a great time. I had actually a Bachelor of Commerce, entirely dedicated to sustainability. It was across faculty. So I had classes actually in the environmental science faculty, in the geography school, et cetera, et cetera. So I had a really great time. But the reality is, there were only a minority of students in my program, because most students wanted to also have like something more experience with finance and all that. And so, at the end of the day, it was just a minority of students who were going through that program. And so the majority of students weren't able to necessarily make the connections between all these topics. So I think that can relate to a lot of schools' experience. Now, a consequence, an illustration of that consequence of, that silo is overall conversation in business schools do not focus enough on sustainability as an opportunity to increase the company's positive impacts and contribute to solutions, which is purpose-driven business. Instead, it actually often focuses too much on just reducing the negative impacts of companies, right? And I think that shift is really, really important, that we start not only talking about negative impacts, but also about the potential of creating positive impacts with a business. And an illustration of that consequence is in finance. Most conversation around sustainable finance in universities right now happen around responsible investment, which basically aims to reduce the negative impacts of a portfolio. So trying not to invest in companies that are completely irresponsible environmentally or socially speaking. Whereas actually something that is missing, I think, and we should talk about it much more in sustainable finance courses, is impact investing, which basically aims at investing with purpose in companies whose core business model is to tackle a social or environmental issue. It's not like they're trying to improve and all that. It's literally the core business model. The core purpose of that business is to tackle and to find a solution to a social or environmental issue. And impact investing is talked much less because of that silo and the fact that we talk mostly about negative impacts rather than positive impacts. So in terms of moving forward in terms of business schools, I think we can do a very legitimate comparison with governments' climate targets at COP26. At COP26, there are governments that basically focused on sustainability, recognizing that it's important and all that. But it's okay, it's so easy now to recognize that sustainability is important to businesses. Everyone is recognizing it. So now this is not really the issue. What matters most is how fast and how ambitious actually business schools are going to act upon it, not just the fact that they recognize that it's important, because I think with everything happening recently, it was easy. So the last 3 slides here is just a list of questions. Yang, I see you, Marco, I see you have your hand raised. Is that meaning that I have no time left, or I have still a few minutes to go to these 3 last slides?
Yes, please, Maxime. We are a little bit over time, so yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, what I recommend you do, everyone in the waiting room, there are not hundreds of people, so I can allow myself to do that. Please take a screenshot of these 3 slides. I promise you, you won't regret reading them after this. They're actually very packed in terms of text. So just take quickly a screenshot. Screenshot number 1 for slide number 1. I'll leave you 5 seconds to take it. So that's first is how fast and how ambitious the action from business school is going to happen. This next slide is how ambitious continued, with some next question to ask yourself and to ask your school on how ambitious they're actually going to be. So screenshot number 2 to be taken now and to read later down the line. So 3, 2, 1. Okay, moving on to the next one. And then the calls to action to more senior business school leaders. Again, you can take a screenshot here in terms of what are like 5 calls to action that business school stakeholders should really consider. Again, screenshot 3, 2, 1. And then finally, last slide, stay in touch and don't hesitate to reach out. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so please do add me there and we'll be in touch there. So thank you for sticking around, and be in touch very soon. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Maxime. Like, you are so passionate. I'm like, sorry, we only give you like 15 minutes. Next time we will give you half hour, so you can talk more.
I don't know if I'll be able to pack those 30 minutes.
And we are very much looking forward to have more cooperation with you and our PGS networks. So really, thank you again for your talks. Great talking. I like it a lot. So we talk soon, okay? So, and also for our audience, let's now move to next session, the panel discussion. We will have like 5 panel members. We will discuss the climate action. Okay, so the session come to the end now. So we see you soon. Okay, bye-bye.